What's up everybody, Tiancum here with Sew Yeah Quilting. Now, last week I had 2 apple trees die on me, so today we're going to show you how you make this beautiful apple quilt to make up for it. Let's get started. Now before we dive right on into the video, I want to tell you about 2 quilts that kind of resemble some methods that we use in this quilt here. We have our funky chicken quilt and our floppy ear cat quilt that are right here on the screen. Now, it uses a floppy method. These leaves are actually only attached on the surface, that way you can move them and it gives the quilt a little bit more flow and vibe. Now that you know that, let's jump into the cutting instructions. So guys, as far as the fabric goes, you really need a lot of different colors here. To get this a look, all my apples are a little bit different in prints. Now you could do it all the same color, it would look amazing, but in today's tutorial, I'm gonna be using different prints throughout. Not only that, I've chosen to go with an ombre. I'll show it to you guys here. I've chosen to go with an ombre for the leaves themselves. That's what gives all these leaves just a little extra movement and texture to them. And a white on white, just because I didn't want to use white today. So I'm gonna start cutting this down and I'll tell you all the measurements. So I'm gonna have to show you 2 different iterations of this block. So for block number 1, what I've already done here, these are just 10-inch squares that I've cut down in a bunch of different red colors here. Then from there, we have 3-inch white on white squares. We have a 2.5 by 4 3/4 inch rectangle, 1.25 by 1.5 stem here. Make sure it's a different color that's different than the greens here. You want it to be a nice color there. Then right here, I've gone ahead and I've drawn out all my leaves. Now, in the pattern, which is linked down in the description below, there is the little template for this. I went a little bit extra just because I knew I was making a lot of these, and I made myself a little template here, easier to trace. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and cut a couple of these out with a pair of scissors, and then we're gonna show you how you assemble the very first block. Now, something I wanna mention as well is that placing your template on an ombre like I'm doing here gives you very distinct looking leaves. I like the look of this. You can simply go with a solid if you'd like, but I like the variation here. Now, as we begin sewing, I'm gonna start with my leaves here. I'm simply gonna put right sides together. So I'm gonna just flip these over on top of each other. I'm gonna sew all the way around, leaving the top open here. So onto the sewing machine. And guys, leaves don't have to be perfect, which is nice. So you're gonna just go around it, do the best that you can. So I've gone all the way around my leaf here. If there's any spots that are sticking out a little bit more than others, go ahead and trim these guys off, leaving about 1/4 inch away from your seam. Now, also with this, I'm gonna go ahead and notch my seam just a little bit here. And all notching is, you wanna come in on a close up? All notching is cutting very nice little V's into your seam here. This will allow your fabric to stretch a little bit and give you a much better curve as we're going along here. So I'm going to just go ahead and notch this out. So got my last little notches in there, cut off my extra string, and now it's time to turn this. Now, it's a simple turn. You're going to just poke it right around, and you should have plenty of space to get this leaf through itself essentially. So let's get this through like so. What I like to do, I always use a pair of scissors for these. You can just simply, nice and gently, poke out all these edges, making sure that leaf kind of takes form there. And you want to spend your time on this a little bit, because whatever this leaf looks like is what it's going to look like on your quilt. And again, leaves don't all have to be the same. They don't have to all look perfect. They are leaves. So let's just finish poking this out here. And then we're going to take this onto the ironing board, give it a really nice press. I'm going to use flatter, you can use best press, any of those will work. I just want to make sure that it's pressed right on top of each other, seam to seam there. So first leaf done there, which is all I need for this particular block. So I'm gonna move this out of my way. Then I'm gonna set this aside. So I've got my 10-inch square here. Now I'm gonna take my 3x3s, I'm gonna place them on the corners here. Okay, I'm gonna go all the way around placing these on the corner. Obviously I need to grab one more there, but we have to mark these corner to corner here. Now, I'm gonna just use a simple marking pencil or pen. This one comes off with ironing, so I like this one a lot. So all I'm gonna do is gonna take my ruler, lay it on top of it. I'm gonna just draw a line corner to corner, gives me just a really good reference point here. And I'm gonna do that to all 4 sides here. Obviously I'm missing one, I've gotta throw one in there. But I'm gonna put this in on all 4 sides, and I'm going to sew directly on that line. And something that I want it to look like, something that I want is that all of these angles kind of go with each other. Because if I mark it this direction, obviously that will give us a really bad sew line. So we want to make sure that's corner to corner and we're following the outside of our block here. And I'll grab one more, but go ahead and start sewing there. First one on, second one on, and we're going to do this to all 4 sides. Now, before I get too far ahead of myself here, you see I have 2 of these already sewn on. Now, once they're sewn onto the fabric here, it's time to trim them up. You do this to all 4 corners, and it's called snowballing the edges, or there's a lot of names out there for it. But to cut off the excess here, I'm gonna place my ruler, and my seam line and my 1/4 inch line, I'm gonna line up together. This will give me a 1/4 inch cut when I cut this. That way it is safe to sew into our project. I'm gonna do the same over here. And again, I'm gonna continue this out to all 4 sides, but you can see the effect that it's giving me. So let me go ahead and make up one of these. And one thing that I don't want you to do is throw away this extra white here. We can use this for the stems. So keep these by you, and I'm gonna make this up. Now that I've made up my block here, you can tell that I've got a little bit of fray going on, but not only that, I'm a little bit bigger than what I originally started with. So all you gotta do, lay it down and flush cut it with the actual 10-inch square itself. The 10-inch square is our red in this case. So I'm just going to go around, kind of trim this up, make sure it's perfectly square here, and make sure it's the right size for us. Now that we have a much better looking block here and it's a 10-inch square, it's time to do the stem. Now, remember how I said save these? You can absolutely sew our stem up with this extra white. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my little piece of white here, and I'm gonna cut a 1.25" by 1.25" little square here. That way I can sew it onto my stem. Nothing crazy, it's just a way to save that little extra piece of fabric. So 1.25", where's my secondary ruler? That way I can cut this really nice and neat. And then we're gonna do another 1.25" square. Which takes our waist down to a tiny, tiny little piece there. Which, I mean, it's nice to not have to waste any material. So from here, I'm gonna do the exact same thing that I just did to my apple. I'm gonna lay them down right sides together. I'm gonna mark a line corner to corner. Now, this is a crucial part. Some people, this won't matter to them, but it's good for you to know. If you notice on my quilt here, that all of my stems are identically the same, okay? That's because I'm marking everything from the top left to the bottom right. Now, if you accidentally mark something from the top right to the bottom left, the stem angle will go the other direction, okay? So just be mindful of that. If that matters to you, make sure you don't skip that step. But they're apples, so if you do them all kind of random, you're probably fine. So let's jump right on into marking this. We're gonna throw it into the sewing machine. Sew directly on top of that line. Due to this piece being so small, I'm just gonna cut it off with a pair of scissors. And just like that, you're gonna have your stem. Now press this really well, and now it's time to construct the final block. Now that it's time to construct this final block, one thing I want to mention is that the top portion of both of the blocks, where the stem and the leaf are identically the same on all of the blocks. So I'm gonna show you how you do this. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take your two 4 3/4 by 2.5 inch pieces, and we're going to connect them just like so, making the top. Now, something that I like to do with this is I'm going to add my leaf in here as well. You're going to take your leaf, you're going to point it up towards the top of the stem, line it up kind of where you want it to go, and understand that this is the finished product. So if you want it to line up right with that stem there, then you're going to have to line up your leaf directly with that stem. So let's sew everything together. I'm going to take my stem, put it right sides together with my extra white here, sew all the way down. Do the same to the other side. I'm gonna take this to the ironing board, make sure we iron out everything nice and clean. So after a nice press, that is what we're looking like. Now it's time to add this leaf. Now, understand that leaves are directional. You can put them in this way, you can put them in this way, you can put them on this side, you can put them on that side. Choose how you want it to look. I've given you all mine pretty uniform where the leaf is kind of going away from the block. So I'm going to nest this right inside next to my stem here. To make sure it stays there as we sew everything together, I'm going to just tack it down with a very, very thin stitch, maybe an 1/8 of an inch stitch. That way you'll hide in the 1/4 inch seam that we're about to put in. Again, that's only to tack this down like so. So all of your top pieces of your apples should look like this in the end. I'm going to tell you that now, that way when we do our next block, which is the half-eaten apple, you don't have to watch this over again. Do everything for your top of your blocks exactly like this. Now let's attach our pieces together, just like so. And you may have a little bit of hangage or overage on your top here. It just gives you a little bit of wiggle room more than anything. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to line my stem up as close as I can to the dead center point of my block. And we're going to take this over to the sewing machine and sew this all the way down, 1/4 inch seams. So now guys, we've got the top on and it's looking like an apple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to iron this up, and I'm also going to press the stem, or sorry, the leaf down, and we're going to press it really nice. That way it stays in place. So now I'm going to make more of these, but I want to show you how you make the second rendition of this block. Very much the same thing, but let's get into it. So for block number 2, the half-eaten apple here, you've already seen the majority of this block. All these pieces right here, we just sewed up to make the stem for the last one. It's exactly the same process, so I'm going to move these out of the way. Now, to do the actual body of this apple, all you're going to need is 3 inch by 10 inch strips in both the white and the red. Also, I have my 3 inch white squares to give it this effect here in the corners. Super simple to do. I'm going to show you how you do one, and it's the same on all of your strips here. And just so you guys can see kind of where I'm going with this, we'll have our red and our whites in the center. Once we knock out the corners, it makes it look like a half-eaten apple. So I'm going to show you how to do this on the red one. Slide these all out of the way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 3 inch squares, I'm going to lay them down on top of my 3 by 10 inch strip here. Something that's super important is that this is directional. Like I was referring to with the stem prior to this, this is a directional piece. You need one line going this way, and then you need a line going this way. Very important you do that, or else it won't give you the effect that you like. So I'm going to drop this down, and kind of like the points are kind of pointing to each other of our line. So let's see here. Obviously one going that way, same thing going this direction. Take this on over to the sewing machine, sew directly on the line. So I've got these sewn like I just showed you guys. Then I'm going to take my ruler, do my 1/4 inch seam, just like we've done on the other block when we snowballed the edges. Exact same principle here. And I'm going to cut them like so. Do it to the other side. On over to the ironing board to make sure that we get some really nice iron press seams. So you're going to repeat this step to both the red and the white sides here. I've already got a little bit ahead of myself and completed that already. So you're going to want to make this, think of it kind of like a hamburger, right? You have the bun on both sides here. And then for the whites, you're going to do the exact opposite and put them towards each other, the short sides towards each other, the top sides away from each other on the red there. Now, you simply are going to sew this in rows. I'm going to show you how to do that. I've already gone ahead and sewed my white together. Then I'm going to just throw on my reds, and we're going to sew that all the way up. So I've sewn my bottom on, now it's time to sew on the top, and then I'm going to give it a really good iron once that is all sewn up. So just like that, the body of this apple is done. And just like I mentioned before, the top portion of it is exactly the same, so I'm going to go ahead and throw on this top, and then show you guys what the finished block looks like. So I've connected the stem, let's iron it out. Don't forget to press that leaf back down into the quilt itself, or onto the block itself, I should say. Boom. So guys, that is how you make both of these blocks. It's a super fun project to make for sure. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to throw in some sashing in between all my blocks and in between them in both directions. And also on this particular quilt, we put the same size sashing as we did our borders, which is going to be a 2.5 inch strip. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting that together and show you what I come up with. So I've gone ahead and finished up our quilt top here. Now I changed it a little bit. I made it a little bit smaller than the one that you see behind me. This is way more the size for like a picnic, which is what we're going to be using it for personally. So guys, we hope you liked this video, and if you have enjoyed this video, make sure you check out this channel and see all the many wonderful quilts we've made. We'll see you on the next one.